CZ Rami versus Springfield Ronin EMP, a concealed carry comparison. We're back out at the beautiful Banner shooting range. In today's video, we're going to do a little bit of our favorite topic, internet myth busting, combined with mostly a comparison. The subject of today's video is going to be the CZ2075 Rami. And as far as the comparison goes, we're going to compare it against a similar size carry 9mm, the Springfield EMP. I forget Ronin EMP. I always forget what the full name of that firearm is. Enhanced micro pistol. So the Rami is a single action, double stack magazine fed firearm, technically in the CZ75 family. Has some interchangeable parts with some of the 75 series firearms, can use the CZ75 magazines, though it's the only CZ, at least when it was out, that used the smaller 10-round double stack magazines. It was, you could say, maybe the most easily carried CZ when it was available, though it's since been replaced by the P10 line with the P10 subcompact and compact. We have a target, one of our little green men UFO targets out there at 7 yards today. And we're going to shoot this Rami side by side against a newer, the Ronin EMP, which I believe they tout as the world's smallest true 1911. It's a 1911 built around the 9mm platform instead of, say, a 1911 and 45 scaled down to 9mm. I'll do the Rami at our left-hand targets, and because this is a duty-style firearm, I don't have the decocker version. I have the safety version, so you could technically carry it with the hammer back and the safety on. So if I was going to carry this firearm, I would do it hammer down, safety off, where your double action trigger pull is your safety, essentially. So my first shot will be double action. The next 9 shots will be single action. I'll shoot at the center mass of our left-hand target. Here we go. Yep. Forgot about the reset. Forgot how short the reset is on my Rami. Threw me out there for a second. It's been a while since I shot it last. Let's now do a magazine through the Ronin EMP at the right UFO target. One nice thing about this EMP, with it being designed around 9mm, your single stack magazines are 9-round capacity, giving you 9+1. The first magazine we shot through the Rami was a 10-round magazine. 1-round capacity advantage, not really much there, but we'll come back to that in our second magazine of the day. Okay, EMP will be at the right-hand target. With this being a 1911, it doesn't do single action, double action. They're all single action. It does have a thumb safety. So if you were going to carry this, you would carry it hammer back, safety on. So here we go. Center mass of our right UFO target. Okay. Without knowing where my double action shot was, I'm going to guess it's the shot over the shoulder of the little green man on the left-hand side. Other than that, our groups are fairly comparable. Maybe slightly better with the EMP 8 of 9 in the 9 ring, 1 in the 8 ring. We did 7 of 10 in the 9 ring with the Rami, 1 in the 8 ring, 2 in the 8 ring. One of those, it's on the border of the 7 and the 8 ring, and then 1 just off our green target. Let's do a second magazine, and this is where you'll notice a big difference between the Rami and the EMP. we're going to use the extended Rami magazine, which is a 14-round magazine. And the nice thing about that is for most people, it lets you get a true full hand grip on the firearm. When I shoot the 10-round magazine, technically I can get a full hand grip, but I kind of got to squinch my pinky up into my ring finger to do so. So much more comfortable getting a full hand grip with that 14-round magazine. Now, same as before, I'll do my first shot double action. So I'll do it from the half cock. Even though this doesn't have the decocker, you can still put the hammer to half cock. So here we go. Okay. Looks like maybe a slightly better group with our second magazine than our first with the Rami. We'll do a second magazine with the EMP, though obviously this will just be another 9-round magazine. Here we go. Okay. With the number of hits on the target, hard to tell if our group was any better second magazine on the EMP. I'm going to say it was at least as good as our first magazine. If there's one downside to the CZ 2075 Rami, it's that, unfortunately, at least a few years ago, I don't remember the exact year off the top of my head, these were discontinued, meaning unless you hit the jackpot, you're not going to see a new one in stores. I guess if you do see a new one in stores, maybe buy a Powerball ticket that day because you got really good luck. As I said earlier, they are basically replaced by the P10 line at this point. So I thought this video would be fun from the standpoint that, especially when using the extended 14-round magazine, as far as the length of the grip, the size of the firearms, while the Rami is slightly wider, otherwise it is very similar in size to that Ronin EMP. And being double stack magazine fed, you do get that 5-round advantage when using the 14-round magazine. I would say, as far as felt recoil goes, pretty similar felt recoil. When we do our next magazines, I'll pay a little closer to attention to that. Though I want to say, at least in my hands, there's really not much of a difference in terms of felt recoil. Now, some people are going to be fans of the range staying hot. One of the nice things about this Ronin EMP, besides being a 1911 pistol with a pretty decent factory single action only trigger, it comes with a set of, at least in my opinion, very good sights. They're not just a plain Jane 3 white dot sight. They are a 3-dot sight system. I believe they call that a tack and rack rear sight. The front sight, though, is a fiber optic, I want to say a target style sight. A range like this where it's outdoor, high visibility lighting, that red dot really shines on the fiber optic. My CZ Rami originally had a 3 white dot sight system, though I replaced that front sight with a Dawson fiber optic front sight. I have a green one in, what I would call my everyday carry Rami, so slightly different from the Ronin EMP, though my single actually only highly customized Rami does have a red filament fiber optic front sight. I would have brought that one today, though you know how YouTube is, they're not a fan of highly customized guns, so everyday Rami it was for this video. All right. What we're going to do now is I have 2 magazines left for each firearm. And for this section, to keep it even, I've loaded 9 rounds in the 2 Rami magazines that we're going to shoot. The first magazine for each firearm, I'll do at the cranium zone of the target. The second magazine from each firearm, we're going to do at our little, what we'll call 2-inch challenge target out there, and see if we can put any hits in the first magazine in the cranium zone and the second magazine in that challenge target. We started with the Rami at the beginning of the video, so let's start with the Ronin EMP for the second half of the video, shall we say. Here we go. I might mix a couple double taps in also. Okay, we got quite a few hits in the cranium zone with the EMP. I have no idea where the double tap hits went. Hopefully on the target. Looks like we got him maybe graze the neck and the cranium, the hairline on 2 of those shots, which are probably the double action shots. Or I mean the doubles. So here we go. Double taps. No double taps. These will just be slow measured shots at that left hand little target. It looks like at least 6 of 9 are in the target zone of that challenge target. It's possible we have more hits. We'll have to review target cam, but at least 6 of 9 from back here. All right, same thing with our Rami, our left-hand target. And I'll do these just single action. Okay, apparently I had one extra one loaded in there. Okay. Looks like we have a better group going with our Ronin EMP. We put a few hits in the cranium zone, no, nowhere near as good as with the Rami as we did with the Ronin. Let's see if we can put any hits on that challenge target. Here we go. Okay, looks like we might have one in the bullseye, with the rest of our shots grouping a little low of our aim point. That's probably just me. Breaking wrist down, pushing forward, probably drooping head. I always fall into a habit of drooping head. So it looks like, at least as far as accuracy goes on our targets today, the EMP has carried the day. And it might even have slightly less felt recoil compared to the Rami. Let me do a couple more shots with each just to confirm that here. We'll do 3 shots with each. I'll use the extended Rami mag versus the normal EMP mag, and we'll just do these at the cranium zone. I'll start with the Rami. Yeah, I'm going with the Ronin EMP, slightly less felt recoil than the Rami, though it's pretty darn close. In today's video, we took a look at two excellent 9mm carry pistols. One, the CZ Rami that unfortunately is discontinued here in 2025 and has been for a few years now. One, still quite readily available, the Springfield Ronin EMP, or Enhanced Micro Pistol. Springfield touts the EMP as the world's smallest true 1911. I don't know if that's 100% true, but, well, it's close enough for our purposes. As we saw in today's video, both these firearms are accurate, they're reliable, they're easy to shoot. For their size, they're pretty easy to carry. Certainly easier to carry than a full-size or a compact pistol in the same caliber. And they do have some advantages and maybe even some disadvantages to go along with them. As far as the Rami goes, those who gravitate towards a single-action, double-action, double-stack magazine-fed pistol that's external hammer-fired, they'll gravitate towards the Rami. The Rami was available as a decocker version or the safety version. I happen to have the safety version. Many people will gravitate towards the decocker version. However, the safety version actually has some advantages, in my opinion, over the decocker version. For example, there's less springs in the sear cage, making it have a better trigger compared to the decocker version. It's also easier to work on, and you have the option of carrying it hammer back with the safety on, so cocked and locked. You can also carry it from the half cock, with hammer down at the half cock with a longer double action trigger pull, or the hammer all the way down for the longest double action trigger pull for the pistol anyway. Compared to our EMP, our Ronin EMP, which is a 1911 chambered in 9mm, that EMP has the single action only 1911 trigger. It is also external hammer fired with the thumb safety. So for those who want a 1911 where they can carry that firearm cocked and locked, they have the EMP to fill that void. There is a slight to more than slight capacity advantage slanted in the Rami's favor between these two firearms. Depending on the magazine you use, you could have a 1 or a 6 round capacity advantage to the Rami. When using those 14 round magazines, though, it's probably not quite as concealable as when using those 10 round magazines. It gets a little longer in the height of the firearm, which many people find will affect the concealability of said firearm. Though looking at the dimensions of these firearms, it's remarkable how similar they are in size. They have very, very similar measurements in terms of the height, the length, the width, the weight, such that if it weren't for things like one being double stack versus one being single stack magazine fed, external hammer fired, where one has the double action to single action trigger and one being single action only, you'd almost think they were the same firearm made by different manufacturers. And I think there are those out there who would probably say that, at least as far as the Rami goes, while it's not a John Moses Browning firearm, there's probably some characteristics of it that harken back to the John Moses Browning designs. Now, I said in the beginning of this video that we were going to do a little bit of myth busting. And if you've watched some of our previous videos on the Rami, you know what myth we're going to target in this one. It's the one that we always target in the Rami videos. What myth? Well, on social media, unfortunately, the Rami has this reputation of, for some reason, you need to change the recoil spring every 500 rounds. You'll even see people say, it says in the manual that you need to change it every 500 rounds, which actually is a complete lie. CZ does not put in their manuals a spring replacement schedule, and for good reason. Different ammo causes firearms to wear differently, and so just blanketly saying change this spring at such rate and that spring at such rate doesn't make much sense because not everybody shoots the same ammo. In fact, the only thing the manual says close to such regard is that the Rami is built for a long service life. A long service life doesn't mean you change springs every 500 rounds. Many of us out there who shoot these firearms, 500 rounds is a good day at the range, or a good weekend at the range, or a good month at the range. No one is changing the recoil spring 52 times, 12 times, etc. per year. They're not doing it. They might change it every 10, 15, 20,000 rounds, but they're certainly not doing it every 500 rounds. After all, this is a CZ firearm and not a Kimber, which Kimber actually does recommend replacing certain springs at round counts in their manual. And if you look those up, you'll find that they are absurdly low round counts that probably make John Moses Browning roll over in his grave. But I digress. One other similarity between these two firearms you'll notice is actually in the recoil spring. Take a look at these two pictures. If it wasn't for how I have the color patterning done on these pictures, you probably wouldn't be able to tell which one went with the Rami and which one went with the Ronin EMP. And as far as I can tell, at least as far as the Springfield 1911s go, they too don't mention anywhere in the manual changing springs at some absurdly low number like 500 rounds. I can even tell you where that 500 round myth originated. It comes from a website, one that happens to sell replacement parts for CZ. So of course, they have a vested interest in getting you to change parts sooner than you would probably need to, because that's how they make money, reselling parts from CZ. Changing the Rami recoil spring is kind of like when you take your car in to get the oil changed and they tell you to change the oil every 3,000 miles, whereas the manufacturer of the vehicle tells you every 5,000 or 7,500 or 10,000 rounds. Of course, the place that gets paid to do oil changes is going to recommend you change it more often because, well, that's how they make their money. Same thing with these websites that resell parts for your firearm. They're going to recommend replacement schedules more often than needed because, well, if you weren't replacing the parts, they wouldn't be in business. Kind of the nature of the beast. I can tell you that the Rami that we shot in this video, while I don't know the exact round count, I know it's well north of 10,000 rounds I have through that firearm. Years ago, I used to shoot it every weekend, multiple times a week, for years. It has thousands and thousands and thousands of rounds through it. And while I don't shoot it very often anymore, unfortunately, it is one that still rocks all its original springs, including that recoil spring, and it shows no signs of slowing down anytime soon. And I have no reason to replace that recoil spring. Do I have replacements? Sure, but why? Because the firearm's discontinued and I have no guarantee that I'd be able to get a part for it 3 or 5 years from now when it probably needs a replacement. So anyway, that myth that the Rami needs to have the recoil spring changed every 500 rounds, throw that away. Ignore anybody who says that or claims that it's in the manual, because it's absolutely not in the manual. That probably seems like a good spot to end today's video. If you enjoyed today's presentation, like the video, share it with your friends and family. Those things are free and they help the channel greatly. If you'd like to help us make more of these videos in the future, look into becoming a member. Fred and I really appreciate you getting this far. Thanks for watching, and as always, have a nice night. Could this be Fredericky's new favorite chorizo? What you got there, Fred? What you got there? Fred, the people can't see you. You're going too crazy. Look at your tail going all waggity, waggity, waggity. You like those smart bones, huh, Fred? Yeah, I thought